I would rather be a prostitute, like a straight up hoe, than be a stripper, because at least I felt like I had control over my environment. I felt safer, which is weird because, I mean, really, was I? No. Alone with a strange man in a hotel room, was I safer than in a public strip club? No, but I felt safer because at least what I was doing was private. I didn't have a problem with what I was doing. I just didn't like the venue in which it was occurring. Hello, welcome to Sex, Love, and Soul. I'm Mary Knight. I'm so glad that you're here. This is video number 2 in my talking about my time as an escort. So the last video I left off talking about cam girls. This was in response to an email I got with a gentleman asking me what I thought about cam girls, and I was talking about my experiences about how when I started, the internet wasn't even really a thing. And so my experience with the cam thing is anecdotal. I ended the video talking about how a lot of those women tend to have a boyfriend that they support, and how that boyfriend or pimp is exploiting both the performer and the client, right? Because you know, a lot of guys have big hearts and they want to be supportive of this woman and they want to help her do well, and so they continue to patronize her. They will give her more and more money, maybe bonuses, gifts, all that kind of stuff, and all of it is going to this dude. I'm not saying all of them. I'm certainly not saying that. When I was working for the high-end service, so many of those women did not have a boyfriend, did not have a steady boyfriend. Not that they didn't date, but it wasn't the same situation. And also the strippers that I knew, when I was working as a stripper, almost all of them had boyfriends. When I was a stripper, I didn't have a boyfriend because I was going through a divorce. And that was kind of the last thing on my mind. And eventually I did have boyfriends. And eventually I did meet the man who would become my third husband, not my current husband, but my third husband. And and I ended up just very frankly lying to him about a lot of the stuff that I was doing with clients, which I'm not proud of, but that was where I was at that time. That was my level of consciousness. I think that the reason why with the camming and with stripping, the reason why so many of those women have boyfriends is because men will find it more palatable for a woman to be shaking her tits and ass for a man rather than actually having sex with a man. Not that escorts don't have boyfriends, because they certainly do. I know that I did when I was high-end. And when I say high-end, to clarify, high-end means that there's a certain level of money that goes along with that, but it's also the kinds of experiences that you're having with clients, the kinds of men that you're seeing as clients. And also for me, I wasn't seeing people for an hour. I had a 3-hour minimum and we had to go to dinner. I was seeing people over the weekend. I was doing overnight stays with people. I was traveling the world with men. That's why I call myself high-end, in case you're wondering, because I was living that kind of first-class lifestyle. So back it was like 2008, I had a really nice, very professional website built. And I got to know the webmaster because we were going back and forth with things, and I would upload photos, and he would have to upload them. But this is like before drag and drop, point and click. It wasn't like that then. And so I hired somebody to do all that. And I told him, I was like, whenever I have a new photo, I don't want you to have to do it. Can you show me how? And so we got to know each other over the weeks that he was building my website. At this time, there was a woman that I worked with quite a bit. We would do doubles. And I won't say her name. I don't know if she's still working or not. But she and her husband had this really nice RV. And they would drive all around the United States, and she would basically go on this tour. And I guess he was her manager. She was one of the few women that I knew that was more of the upper echelon that had a husband. That was rare in my experience. And so she was doing these little videos, and she was putting them on her website. And we worked together so much, and we had a similar body type. I was taller than her, and she was more blonde, and I had the black hair, and I had a little cut in a little bob, and she was tan. I'm not tan. I have a lot of tattoos. We both had the same kind of body, but we both worked out. We were fit. We had our little six packs. And so we looked good together, is what I'm saying. She approached me and said, hey, would you like to do some videos with me, and we can sell them, and I'll give you half, and da-da-da. I was like, yeah, that sounds great. And so her husband was going to be the videographer. So I went to my webmaster and I said, I'm going to work with this woman and I'm going to put these videos up. He's like, I already have that set up. It's just not active. Let me do that and I'll call you when it's done. I was getting super excited, getting ready to record these videos, renting a hotel room to meet with her and get all this stuff done, and pretty excited about the whole thing. And my webmaster called me and he said, you have kids, right? And I said, yeah. He said, don't do this. So what do you mean? What are you talking about? He said, don't do this with these videos. Don't put these videos up on your website. He said, I can put security on them. I can do everything I know how to do to lock them down so that people can't download them. But if somebody really, really wants to and they know how, they can download your videos and they can do whatever they want with them. There's all this technology constantly evolving, coming out. You are not going to be able to control that. And you seem like a really nice lady. You seem like you have your shit together. You've got kids. Don't do this. And I was so stunned. And I said, okay, I'm going to think about it and I'll let you know. And that really surprised me, and it made me really think about what I was getting ready to do. The reason that I was wanting to transition into videos and having a paywall, like doing solo stuff or doing girl stuff, was because by that time, even though I had taken a break, and because when I was running my escort service and when I was running the modeling studio, I was not seeing clients because at that time I was married. So I had a break. As soon as my husband and I split up, like the very next day, I saw a client. And then it was on. And that was that was 2006. So after 2 years of pretty steadily, like I say pretty steadily, I was steadily working. I was burned out. I was loving the money. I was loving the prestige. I just loved the freedom. I was getting burned out and I just wanted a break. I felt like I needed to make the money because I wasn't treating my money properly yet at that time. And so everything I made, I was spending. I mean, I did have a kid in college, but I was making plenty of money. I just was not disciplined, didn't have a budget, didn't understand money. Still, after all that time, not having money was what got me into sex work in the first place. I don't think I mentioned that, but I was working 2 jobs because I couldn't support me and my 3 kids. And I wasn't getting child support from either of my ex-husbands. One who was in prison on drug and weapons charges. I didn't know where he was. I hadn't heard from him. Wasn't getting any child support, as I said. And also, I was like, this is up to me. I'm doing this all on my own. I'm not going to rely on them. I don't trust them. I'm doing this on my own. And I also didn't have the kind of relationship with my parents where I could ask them for the money, where I could go to them for help. They had the money, but I just didn't have the relationship. I was very ashamed that at my age, being in my mid-30s, that I didn't know anything about money, that I couldn't take care of myself and my kids. In fact, I was so ashamed that it made more sense to me to prostitute myself than to ask for help. How about that? That's where I was. That was my level of consciousness at that time. And I've mentioned in another video that I look back on my time as an escort fondly. And I do. I have a lot of really great memories. And the best memories are my knowing that I could take care of myself and my kids. I didn't have to rely on anyone. I didn't have to answer to anybody. That here I was, a grown woman, and I was actually able to take care of all the things. Never mind that I was a professional criminal, but that was what gave me this sense of freedom and purpose. And I was burned out, but I still needed to make money. So I thought, what can I do where I don't have to interact with so many different men? And I wasn't having sex with all of them because I did fetishes, and I was a dominatrix and all that kind of stuff, which actually I hated being a dominatrix. When I felt like a whore was when I was a dom, because I'm not a sadist. I'm just not a sadist. I'm not. And so I sounded like I protested a lot there. No, I wasn't. I wasn't comfortable with it. I knew how to do it. I apprenticed under a dominatrix, so I really knew what I was doing and I really knew how to do it, but it wasn't something that I enjoyed. And so I was really just doing that for the money. And I know it's the irony of it is because you don't have sex with your clients when you're a dom. That's part of the deal. And yeah, and that's when I felt like a big old whore. So yeah. Huh. That's funny to say. That's funny for me to think about and say. Okay, so I was saying that, oh yeah, so the money thing. So that's why I was trying to do this video thing. And I was doing some research. I was looking up some other fetish models because I was also had done some fetish modeling, and I knew a lot about the lifestyle, even though that wasn't my thing. So after I had that talk with my webmaster, I did go back to the woman that I was going to do the 2-girl videos with. I was like, hey, y'all, I'm not going to do this. It's one thing for me to do what I'm doing in private, but to do it like that where somebody could download it and be everywhere, then I'm not comfortable with that. Little did I know that something like this whole camming thing was going to happen for like regular people, because before it was just porn stars, right? It was just porn stars and sex workers that were doing this stuff, not like someone who's 18 going, oh, I know, I'm going to have my own cam show. Because the platforms, the technology didn't exist then. That's so fascinating to me. And I love technology. I'm all about it. As I mentioned in another video about the email asking me, what do I think about technology and sex? And what do I think about its effect on these young people who are 18 years old getting into sex work in this very public way? And what I think is that when you're 18 years old, you don't know what you're doing. Speaking from experience, you don't know what the hell you're doing when you're 18 years old. I don't think anybody who's listening to this who is 30 and over would ever think, oh yeah, when I was 18, I knew what was up. Oh my God. We don't know. And unfortunately now with technology the way that it is, even just social media, being a dumbass when you're 16 on social media, you know, it's preserved for posterity, right? When I'm thinking about somebody who's 18 years old, like I'm old enough to be their grandma, you know? So I do have a very different perspective. And my perspective is, Jesus, Mary and Joseph. When I was a stripper, and I was 34, so I was 33. And there were girls working in there who were 17, because that you could be 17 and work in a titty bar in Houston. I don't know if that's still true, but it was back then. And there were some 17-year-old girls working in there. And I remember thinking, oh, honey, this is what you think sex is? This is what you think men are? This is what you think romance is all about? Oh, no. I mean, I was already a woman who had been married twice and had 3 kids. And I was struggling in there. Like, this is so, I want to say, it wasn't fucked up, but it's just so contrived. There were a lot of things I liked about the club, and then there were really just a few things that I didn't like about the club. And one of them was the exposure. Like I said, I would rather be a prostitute, like a straight up hoe, than be a stripper, because at least I felt like I had control over my environment. I felt safer, which is weird because, I mean, really, was I? No. Alone with a strange man in a hotel room, was I safer than in a public strip club? No, but I felt safer because at least what I was doing was private. I didn't have a problem with what I was doing. I just didn't like the venue in which it was occurring. That's what I had a problem with. Every escort I know was like, oh my God, I could never be a porn star, because everybody would just see everything and know all your business. And then porn stars that I've known are like, oh my God, I could never be an escort. I see all those people. Oh my God, at least I know all the men and have a chance to meet and talk to all the men that I do movies with. Right? And then there's strippers that are like, oh my God, I could never be an escort. I could never have sex with men for money. I mean, I could give them blowjobs in the club. I can jack them off in the club, but oh no, I could never be in private with a man. That just weirds me out. And then cam girls that I've known are like, oh my gosh, I couldn't like go to strangers' houses. Oh, that's so weird. That weirds me out. Or then there are women who worked at the modeling studio, the one that I owned. They were like, oh my God, I can never do out calls. I want the men to come here and see me here at this place. I could never just drive all over Houston and see men. We all have our different things based on our personalities and our experiences on what we're comfortable with. Because I could never imagine working in a modeling studio. I would have felt so trapped. But certain people just like that security of the place. And I had my key map, if y'all know what that is, or what was it? I had a key map. Was it the Thomas Guide or Thomas's Guide? And you would have to look stuff up on this key map and drive all over. I'm driving all over Houston at midnight, 1, 2, 3 in the morning to go all over town, all over these different hotels to go see men. It's so wild. But yeah, I was pretty damn good with a map. Also, I had a Primeco phone where you had minutes. I had to buy minutes. You go into the Primeco store and you buy minutes and you put it on your little flip phone. And back then, the only people that had cell phones were people who had money. You had to have money to have a cell phone because they wouldn't just give you a cell phone plan. I think you had to have really good credit. Like, it was like a whole thing. And so I was going in and re-upping my minutes all the time. So at first, when I started working for my madam, Jordan, for the kind of middle-class escort service that I started working for in Houston, I had a pager. And she would page me, and I would have to find a phone booth, and I'd call her. And she'd give me the address and give me all the particulars. And then I would look it up on my freaking key map. And that's how I would go to these guys' houses. And then when I got there, I would use their phone and I would call her and tell her that I was there. And then 45 minutes later, she would call me and tell me that my time was up. That's how that worked. It's so funny to think about. But yeah, so all the different women have all the different personalities. But one thing that every sex worker that I know or have even heard about all share the common trait of curiosity and having a sense of adventure. And so when you're 18, oh my Lord, if you are even the least bit adventurous and you're very comfortable with your sexuality and all these other people are doing it in public, you can see all over the internet, all these other people are doing it. You have a lot of affirmation. You have a lot of support in doing it because you can look all around you and you see, oh, all these other hot bitches are doing it. Why don't I? Back when I started working as an escort, it was very private. It was very secretive. It was very underground. So there was no place for me to look to see all these other people doing it. So it was just a different, as they say, different vibe. So, okay. I think I've said enough on this, and I'm going to continue talking about this. I just did these 2 videos, and then I'll do another one and talk more about this. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to those of y'all who don't celebrate Christmas. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, why not? Do it. It's easy. It's free. And you just might learn something. Also, nice guys, if you're still listening, check out my book, How to Turn Nice into Your Sexy Superpower. If you're interested in coaching with me, I do offer one-on-one coaching. You can find a link to my coaching on sexloveandsoul.com, where you can find my book, How to Turn Nice into Sexy Superpower. You can also find a link in the show notes, and you can find sexloveandsoulcoaching.com. What seems to have become my specialty is coaching men who have formed a bond with a sex worker. And you want to know, can it be real? Can someone who is or was a sex worker really love you, really be emotionally connected to you? I say yes, I'm living proof of that, but I know that each situation is different. And the men who are calling me too, which I think are booking coaching, oops, sorry, kicked my camera, are coaching, are not meeting these women on the job. You just happen to meet a woman who's a sex worker. Then I've had a couple of guys that I've talked to who met a woman as that y'all formed this bond, and she is an escort. She is actively seeing other clients. And so you just have some questions, and I have some answers. Okay, thank you so much for listening, and bye for now.